All right, well, thank you very much, everyone, for joining us this evening. It's been a lovely day here in Sydney. And excitingly, at the end of the day, we get to hear from the bell ringers. So I would like to offer my thanks at this stage, just in case I forget, to Margaret Hill and Murray-Luke Peard, both of them captains sometime of the bell tower. One of the great events that I was watching closely last year was in fact the election of the new captain of the bell tower, because I'd heard that Murray-Luke was had come to the end of his term and couldn't stand for re-election, and so really all throughout the Cathedral community we were watching closely to see who would replace him. But I know that we're very glad that Margaret Hill has stepped into the role, so welcome to both of you. Please take it away. I think, Margaret, you're beginning, aren't you?
Yes, I'll start. Thank you, Richard. Well, I did not know that it was going to be a closely watched election. We'll have to be more careful, I think, to see who's on our Zoom meetings. Yes, look, I've been tower captain since our last annual general meeting elections, which happened in November. So I'm coming up for my first 12 months of tower captain, and of course I took over from Murray-Luke, who was the tower captain for 6 years, and we have lots of rules around what goes on in the bell tower, and one of them is that you can only be tower captain for 6 years. And Murray-Luke has explained that you do burn out. There is a lot to do, there's lots of responsibilities, and he was happy to step aside, but he's very eager to get back, but we're just holding him at bay just for a little bit longer. So anyway, I've done my first 12 months. It's been an interesting 12 months. You know, I didn't know what I was stepping into, but I thought I would first of all just give you a little bit about why I'm a bell ringer and how I got into it. So I sort of, you know, went back over the records to see how long I've been doing it. I'm relatively new to bell ringing compared to most of the other bell ringers in the tower. I first went into the tower on Australia Day 2011 to do a tour of the cathedral, because it was advertised in my local parish bulletin. And I went in and I ran into someone and said, "Oh, do you want to do a tour of the bell tower?" I thought, "Oh, that sounds like fun." So, of course, your first introduction is walking up this spiral staircase, which is pretty exciting when you haven't been in it before, thinking, where am I headed? And so I got to the top and we went into the ringing room that I now know is called the ringing room. Some of you may have been there, I'm not sure how many of you, but there was probably 30 of us sitting around this quite a large room with ropes hanging down in the middle of it, and we had a demonstration of bell ringing. And I was hooked straight away. I thought, oh, wow, this is amazing. So it really caught my interest. I mean, I was at a stage in my life where my kids had grown up. I was no longer involved in the soccer club. I was no longer involved in the hockey club. School meetings had stopped. So, you know, you sort of get to a stage, think, now what do I do? So I was really looking for something. And I just happened to stumble across, I mean, I wasn't in the cathedral looking for a tour of the bell tower. It just happened. Someone said, "Oh, do you want a tour?" So forever grateful for that moment, because when I got up there, I thought, this is something I think I could see myself doing. It didn't happen straight away, though. I had to think about it, because I thought, oh, it's a bit of an odd thing to do. I'd never known that bell ringers, that it was actually an activity that could happen. So I thought about it for a number of months. I mean, as much as I wanted to do it, I thought, is it an odd thing to do? Will people think I'm strange? You know, who can I do it with? And I mentioned it, not one person said, I'll do that with you. So obviously a lot of people think it's a bit of an odd thing to do, until of course you start doing it, and you just fall in love with it and you just love it. So, and that's what happened. It took me 6 months I've got the date here. My first day in the tower as a learner was the 16th of June, 2011. So I've been a learner for just over 9 years, and I've got a long way to go. It's a very, very slow process, but it's a lot of fun. And it's a great group of people who are in the tower. And of course, it's a big commitment, like any small or any hobby. any small hobby, you know, you have a core group of passionate people who will be there, rain, hail or shine. And then you have people who come, try it and leave. But it definitely is a big commitment of time. Look, like any hobby, you know, like the soccer club, you have to be there on training night. You have to be there to man the kitchen. You have to be there to sell raffle tickets. You have to be there to sell chocolates. The difference with bell ringing is that you don't have to sell anything. You just turn up and ring. So it's actually a free activity. So if you've got spare time and low funds, it's an ideal hobby to take up. So look, we have a group of about 20 people in our society. We probably get 12 people who ring regularly. Some people are members of our society but can't always get to the tower. They've either moved away or they're not well enough, or they're having a break. But we have probably 14 regular ringers who come to the tower. Now, of course, once upon a time, it used to be easy to get into the tower. You just roll up and think, I might ring at St. Mary's today, and you would just arrive and walk upstairs and you could ring. We didn't know who would be turning up, but March this year, COVID changed all that. And now we've had to put very strict guidelines about how we run attendance at the tower. And I'm affectionately known as the gatekeeper now, because I stand at the side staff door admitting people into the tower. They have to be registered with me before they attend. So it has changed the landscape of our practice nights and our Sunday morning ringing a little bit. I would say in a better way, because we now know who's attending. If your name's on the list, we expect you to turn up. If your name's not on the list, you're not allowed in. So, but it's also required a little bit more organisation, getting, you know, that email goes out, you know, who's coming on Thursday night, who's coming on Sunday. So there's a lot of communication between the bell ringers about when they can and can't attend the ringing chamber to join us. But, you know, in saying that, it's been really good. We get the regulars. I've learned a lot about, you know, who stays up late to read their emails, who doesn't bother reading their emails, who are the fastest to reply. So, you know, I'm learning a lot about the ringers, probably a lot more than I may have learned if I'd taken on the conventional role of tower captain after Murray Luke had finished. So it's been an interesting and a very different year to what I was expecting. I mean, I was a little bit nervous about taking on the role of tower captain, but I have had a great team around me to support me and help me and to set me straight when I'm not quite doing what I'm supposed to be doing. And I'm getting a lot of ringing in. And of course, we're always looking for learners. So we have one learner at the moment. We've got another one who should be starting with us in a couple of weeks. So if anyone is interested in learning how to be a bell ringer, you're more than welcome to let Richard know, and he can put you in touch with us, and we can get that started. You know, the commitment is practice on a Thursday night. If you're ever around, you'll hear we start practice from 6:15 till 8:15, and it's great. It's really good. And then when you're good enough, you're allowed to ring on a Sunday. So we only have St. Mary's ringers on a Sunday. We do invite other towers to join us on a Thursday night, because there are about 5 or 6 city towers. We've got St. Philip's down at the Rocks, and there's St. James across the road, and then St. Mary's, and we've got St. Andrew's at Town Hall. Then down at Central, there's Christchurch, St. Lawrence. A little bit further down towards Abercrombie Street, we've got St. Ben's. Most towers aren't ringing at the moment. St. Mary's is one of the few towers that are ringing. Some of the other towers are ringing on very limited numbers, but we are ringing on between 8 and 12 bells on a Thursday. Usually on a Sunday, it's usually 8. So if you're at Mass, you'll hear us ringing on 8. But, you know, there's a lot to learn. You know, you have to learn about ropes and sallies and peels and quarter peels and methods. It's a whole new language, as you would expect. I suppose if you're a photographer, it's the same sort of thing. You know, it's just a little sort of a little in circle thing that you know what's going on when you're a member, and when you're not a member, you don't understand any of it. But you know, you start to learn. I know now, you know, how to ring a rope, how to pull a rope, which is took me a while to learn, but I did it. It probably takes a couple of weeks to be comfortable learning how to pull a rope for the first time. And then once you've done that, then you have to learn to ring with other ringers. And that is a lifelong thing to learn. And every bell ringer will tell you they've always got something to learn. I know about 3 things to ring with bells. Murray Luke probably knows a lot more, he can tell you. But there are like 5,000 methods that you can learn with bell ringing. So you never stop learning, because there's always something new to learn. And then I remember, like, when I first started to ring, you'd ring for 3 minutes and think, oh, when are they going to stop? When are they going to stop? When are they going to stop? My arms are getting sore. I'm getting tired. But you know, the idea is that you do learn to ring a bell for longer than 3 minutes. It gets to 5 minutes, it gets to 10 minutes, and then they say, hey, do you want to ring a quarter peal? And you think, what is a quarter peal? A quarter peal is where you ring for up to 55 minutes. And you think, there is no way in the world I could do that. But I've checked my records, and over the last 9 years, I have rung 40 quarter peals. So you ring one and you think that's enough, but you know, I'm now up to 40. Of course, the next thing is a full peal, which I have no interest. Again, I have no interest in ringing a peal, but you know, maybe I'm getting close to one. Murray sort of said to me not long ago, you're probably getting close to ringing one. I don't think I am. I think I'm a little bit too far away from it. But you know, people ring hundreds of peals, and a peal goes for 3 hours and 50 minutes. You know, like, sounds crazy, but there are people who do it all the time. And so Murray can tell you more about that, because he's rung many, many peals. So that's I just want to give you an introduction as to me and why I'm a bell ringer and why I love it so much. But I am going to hand you over to Murray Luke, and he will take you through more, well, the tower. We've got some photos to show you, some slides of what the tower looks like. Some of you will have seen it, but we'll go through it again. And Murray Luke will give you a little bit more information about the actual ringing of the bells. Okay, thanks, Richard.
So I wanted to tell you a little bit about the society that Margaret was talking about before. The Society of Bell Ringers that is based here at St Mary's is called the St Mary's Basilica Society of Change Ringers. And it's existed in one form or another. It's existed in one form or another since 1844. A society of a similar name was formed on the 1st of January, 1844. So we've been here for 176 years. The tradition goes back a very long way by Australian standards. In the UK, of course, the tradition goes back 400 years. Change ringing, as we know it, has been practiced in the UK since the 1600s, the early 1600s. So there's a lot of history there. Most of it good, I would say, but you know, as with history, there are some things that we can do a little bit better now. For example, when the society was first formed, women were not allowed to ring. So I'm very glad to say that we've moved on from that, and we have a number of very, very competent, even women bell ringers who ring some of the heaviest bells as well. So we're really privileged to be in a position now where we can be so inclusive and have everyone join in with us. So that's our society. Societies are very often based around a particular tower, but they can also be based around a particular city. So in London, there are 2 major societies that ringers from different towers would join. They're called the Ancient Society of College Youths, which was formed in 1648, and the Society of Royal Cumberland Youths, which was formed a little bit, about 100 years after that. Ringers in London can't be members of both. They can only be members of one. And I guess a little bit like sporting teams, there can be a very friendly rivalry between them. So that's just a little bit about the societies. We have a similar situation sort of here with our very good friends at St Andrew's Cathedral. The rivalry there is extremely friendly. So we get on very well with them. and also the ringers at St James, King Street, just across the road, St Philip's, Churchill, Christchurch, St Lawrence, St Ben's, St Mark's, Darling Point. There's a tower out there as well. And more and more recently, new sets of bells are going in. You may have seen on ABC News only a few weeks ago that the bells for Parramatta Cathedral were consecrated in quite a medieval ceremony. I can tell you, there was a lot of incense. It was quite an event, and they were hung from a trellis in the center of the cathedral and chimed for the first time using hammers. So that's just a little bit about societies. I'm going to go upstairs now. So let's just see how this goes. I don't know how steady I can hold the camera. So if you find yourself getting a little bit seasick, perhaps just look away for a moment, and if I don't talk too much when we're going up the stairs, it's because I'm out of breath, because there are 111 stone stairs, as you will see shortly. I am still here, I promise you. I'm just getting into the bottom of the staircase now, where I can... Some of you will have seen this before. Some of you will have even been up here, I think. But for others who haven't been up before, this is the first challenge about bell ringing, if you like. It's getting up the stairs. And some people do it a lot faster than others. Our eldest bell ringer is well into her 80s and still comes up the stairs 2 or 3 times a week. So there's a challenge, and up we go. So bell ringing is full of challenges and moments, and the very first disappointment is that this is not the door to the ringing chamber. This is in fact only halfway. Here we go. So that's 111 stairs. And really, this is as good a place as any to have a breather. Especially at this time of evening, it's just beautiful. So on we go. More stairs. These aren't the last of them either, I'm sorry to tell you. And finally, at last, into the ringing chamber. As Margaret said, things are a little bit different in the ringing chamber these days. The first thing you're prompted with is hand sanitizer and plenty of it. We've got signs everywhere saying where you can sit and where you can stand and that sort of stuff. So I'll try and turn my phone to see if that's better. Look at that. And even more stairs to go before we get up to the actual bells. But as ringers, this is where we spend the majority of our time. A couple of fans around because ringing is quite heavy work. And the ropes themselves are held up near the roof on a device which we call a spider. I suppose because it sort of has lots of legs and it sits up upside down on the roof. So these bells need to be let down before they can be rung. So I'll move over and do that. Now the ropes are all down and ready to be rung. I'm not actually going to ring one of them today because I think no one is expecting the bells to ring, so that could be a bit of a shock. But we will go upstairs shortly and have a closer look at them and talk a little bit about how they work. But before we do, we'll just go around the walls of the ringing room. It is, I suppose, a little bit like a clubhouse. When you're learning to ring, you do have to spend a lot of time learning it, and you do get very familiar with the place. It certainly is sort of like a second home to me, except of course there's no bathroom up here, so that makes it very inconvenient as a second home, I've got to tell you. And the stairs to the bathroom, as you've just seen, make you really question, do I need to go? How much do I need to go exactly? So let's look around the walls. First thing that you might be interested to see is the tower where the very first bells of St Mary's Cathedral were housed in 1844. So that is St Mary's Chapel behind the carillon, the campanile. And a campanile is a bell tower that's not attached to a church. And as you can see, it's not actually attached. The fact that it's not attached was a saving grace when the cathedral behind it actually burnt down, as the campanile did not, and the bells were saved. So those were the first of 3 sets of bells that have been here on this site. They were cast in 1843 and rung here for the first time in 1844. The next tower, in this picture, you can see the cathedral in sort of mid-construction. The central tower, where I'm standing in now, you can see, but actually further down along College Street, you can see there is another tower just here. And that is where the bells were housed at that time, before they were moved into the central tower up here. So there've been 3 locations for bells: Tower 1, Tower 2, and Tower 3. There have also been 3 sets of bells. They don't line up with the towers exactly, but there's a nice symmetry to that in any case. I said that there was a bit of friendly rivalry between towers, and that does come down to competitions from time to time. So this shield isn't contested any longer. So we happen to be the last people to have it when that competition ended. So it's still here. Margaret said that people ring for a long time. This is in memory of Hugh J. Lorne, who died in 1902. So he was one of the very first bell ringers. He was captain for 25 years. So when I was ousted as captain, I made a big speech and pointed at this, and anyway, it didn't do me any good. But no, I'm very, very happy for Margaret to have taken over as captain. And more recently, we have here a memorial to Jack Cummins, who some of you may even have known. He was the archivist here for a long time. And he died 4 years ago in January 2016. And he was a bell ringer here for 68 years, so by far the majority of his life. He was also captain for a long time. We have more competitions that are no longer contested. The certificates these days don't stand up very well to the old style, I suppose. Here we have a picture of the bells themselves. I won't dwell too long on this because we'll go and see them shortly. Another memorial to the MacDonald family, R.H. MacDonald, MacDonald Senior, Bob Senior. He would have been one of the very first bell ringers here in 1844. Margaret was mentioning quarter peals and peals. A quarter peal is, as the name suggests, 1/4 of a peal. A peal is, depending on how many bells are ringing, anything over 5,000 changes. That can take, as Margaret said, in the order of 3.5 hours, depending on the weight of the bells and the speed and the method and many, many things. Very often when peals are rung, we have a plaque put up for them, not for all of them, but for particular peals we do. And they're grouped together in a peal board. These are our 2 peal boards here in the tower. As you can see, they're full. We are in the process of organising new peal boards. We haven't had a peal put on these boards since before I started ringing. The most recent peal on here is from 2003. Until quite recently, we thought that the first peal that had been rung here, I have no idea whether you'll be able to see that or not, probably not, I'll just assume not. It was 5088 Kent Treble Bob Major on the 20th of November 1934. Until very recently, we thought that had been the very first peal that was rung here. But we've since found evidence that a peal was rung in 1911. The evidence that we found was a clipping from the Sydney Morning Herald, and it's backed up by subsequent reports. So now we have to go and renumber all of our peals to add 1 to the peal number. So more stairs, let's go further up. As Margaret said, this is called the ringing chamber. There are actually 3 rooms up here, 3 stories, if you like. This is the ringing chamber, where we spend all of our time. That's where we do the ringing. There's a gap in between the ringing chamber and the belfry for sound control. Otherwise, it would be very, very loud up here. It's called the sound chamber. So we do have to sneak through the sound chamber, which is only about it's the exact height of Aunt Margaret. How tall is Anna? One of our younger ringers is the only person who can stand up in there. We're through the sound chamber now, and we're into the belfry itself. And here, these are the bells. I'll just go up a few more stairs to get a good shot of them.
You have
while I'm doing this.
Oh, that's better.
Like I said, this is the 3rd ring of bells that we've had on site here. The first were in 1844, cast in 1843. The second, so we call those the Paulding bells. The second bells, which we call the Moran bells, were cast in 1882. And these bells, which we call the Clancy bells, were cast in 1985. So they're sort of 40 years old, 45 years old. state of the art. When it comes to bells, anything under 100 years is really very recent. These bells are all dedicated to a particular saint. I should mention that the first thing you might notice is that they sit with their mouths up. For English change ringing, that's pretty much the standard. Here in the cathedral, we leave them up like this because there's so much security in place that we're not worried about anyone coming in here and hurting themselves. But in other places, the bells would be rung down for safety when they were not in use. But we don't do that here. Also because our bells are very heavy, so it's actually quite an effort to get them up and down. So they're upside down. They're held up in this position by means of 3 pieces of wood. We have here the slider, the stay, and the runner board. So the combination of those 3 pieces of wood mean that the bell can be set in its upright position. Now, you might be looking at that and thinking, that's a very heavy bell. And those bits of wood really don't look all that strong. And that's true. Most of the weight, however, is held here on these beams, because when the bell is up, most of the weight is sitting on these cross beams here. And this combination is just to hold the bell upright rather than to bear any of its weight. In fact, those stays are designed to break. If a ringer loses control of the bell and pulls too hard or doesn't catch it at the other end, we would prefer to be able to replace one of these 3 pieces of wood, usually this one, the stay, for the sake of about $40, than to have any of the bearings here in the bearing house damaged and have to get engineering and lifting equipment up here to lift the bell out of its pit, fix the bearing house and put it back in again. So it's like a fuse, if you like. It's designed to break. So let's go around the bells. Like I said, this is the 3rd ring of bells. There are 14 of them. We only usually ring 12 at once, or some other combination of an even number, but 12 is the maximum. There are 3 towers in the world that have 16 bells. They are Christchurch, Dublin, the Swan, Campanile in Perth, and St Martin in the Fields in Birmingham. They're all dedicated. If you can see upside down, this one is dedicated to St Thomas. This bell is hung the other way around, so the dedication is actually on the other side, but I'll tell you it's St Patrick. Oops. This is John the Baptist. St Joseph. Again, the dedication is on the other side of this one, but it's Ora Pro Nobis.
And Marie-Luc, have you got a favourite bell?
I do, I suppose. I do. I probably have 2 favourite bells. It's based on sort of a combination of my particular height and strength and the weight of the bell. So my favourite bell to ring is the 10, which is Our Lady Help of Christians. And that just seems to be in the sweet spot for me to ring comfortably. And for a long time, I've rung this bell for peals on a number of occasions. Probably can't, that's probably too dark, but it's Our Lady Help of Christians. In this tower, we have 3 bells that are dedicated to St Mary, in a way. We have Our Lady Help of Christians. We have Mary, Mother of God, who is over here. And we also have Ora Pro Nobis, which is the second one, just not the first one on the right, but the second one. And Ora Pro Nobis obviously being a line from Ave Maria. The heaviest bell is 1,700 and something kilograms. It's dedicated to Saint Bede, and it's known as the tenor bell. The heaviest bell in any ring of bells is called the tenor. The lightest bell is called the treble. So for bells, yeah.
Sorry, Marie-Luke, we've just got a question from Kerry who would like to know, do the bells sound better when they are new or better as they age? Do they eventually break and need to be replaced, or because the sound deteriorates?
The sound doesn't change very much, no, over the years. These bells, like I said, are about 40, so they're very, very young. What will change is that the cast iron clapper will create a bit of a divot in the bronze. The bells are made of bronze, and obviously that's a lot softer than the cast iron clappers. So they will cause a little bit of an indentation. Let's see if I can get up there one-handed. See where the clapper sits against the bronze. On the other side, you can't see it. You can see that there's a little bit of an indentation starting there. So what will happen is, in about 100 years, we will turn them. Well, not me, obviously. Someone will turn them by 1/4 of a turn. They're attached to the headstocks with 4 bolts. So they will be taken off the headstock. Let's get back down again. They're attached to the headstock by means of 4 bolts. You can see 2 of them there on one side of the headstock, 2 of them there on the other. That means that they can be turned, they can be detached from the headstock, and the bell can be turned by 1/4 of a turn at a time. So that would happen once every 100 years or so. So we would expect to get quite a bit more use out of these bells. The bells that we hear before, so I think that the short answer is that the sound doesn't change very much as the bells age. But as new casting methods are developed, the bells that are produced can obviously change in their quality, largely for the better with modern techniques. And I expect that was behind the decision to upgrade our bells here on 3 occasions, which is well, on 2 occasions, which is really quite an undertaking. The bells that we heard previously, there was nothing wrong with them at all, but they were configured for a ring of 8. Here we have a ring of 14, so we wanted to upgrade. Those bells, well, 7 of them, in fact, were sent to St. Francis Xavier Catholic Cathedral in Adelaide, where they still form 5 to 11 of their ring there. The tenor from that ring is still on site here at the cathedral. It's in the southeastern tower, where it rings as the Angelus bell. We're not sure what happened to the first set of bells here from 1844. We expect probably that the metal was used to offset the cost of the 1882 bells. Would there be any other questions while I'm up here before we go back down?
You say that you usually use 12 bells out of the 14. Is it always the same 12? And do 2 bells get a permanent rest?
That's an excellent observation. 2 bells get a permanent rest when we ring on 12. And the reason for that is because the bells are always, well, unless we're being deliberately provocative, the bells are always rung in a major scale. So the 2 extra bells above 12 enable us to ring different combinations of the bells on 6 or 8 or 10. So the bells are numbered from, there are 14 bells, they are numbered from 0 to 12, and there are 2 6s. So in descending order of pitch and ascending order of weight, it's 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Got 2 6s over there, 6 and the 6 flat, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. So the 12 is in C sharp major, which is quite a jolly sound. However, if we use one of the other sixes, we can also ring an F sharp major using a different bell as the tenor. So we have an 8 and we have a 10, and obviously a 6 as well, because you're just stacking them across along the top. That means that the ringer of the tenor doesn't have to work quite so hard, seeing as the tenor of that combination, which is the 9, is only 1400 weight as opposed to 3400 weight. We always measure the weights of bells in 100 weight, and so if you've got your calculator out, or if someone can Google what 1400 weight 3/4 and 8 pounds is, you'll know how heavy it is. I can remember the metric measurement for the tenor because that's what I'm always asked, but I can't remember the metric measurements for the others. So the smallest one, 0, here is an A sharp, so it's like an extra sharp, a sharp treble, we call it. So we have a 12 with a flat 6 and a sharp treble. The combination is called 12 plus 2. So yes, the 0 and the flat 6 are not rung when the full 12 are being rung together. Well, keep questions in the chat and I'll head back downstairs.
Carolyn or Richard.
Hi, Seth, yes.
Is my question there? I'm a bit of a troglodyte in terms.
Oh, no, don't worry. No, I can't see it. So why don't you ask it now, Seth?
Okay. Murray, is there a certain protocol for when bells are rung on either religious or civil occasions, or who determines that, or is it just the cathedral?
It's a combination of the cathedral letting us ring and us being available to ring. So we always ring on a Sunday morning, as you know. We often ring for civic occasions as well. We usually ring on Australia Day. We ring on the Feast of Christ the King. That's a regular big ringing day for us. We ring for state funerals when asked by the organisers. So protocol-wise, it's just a matter of organising it between ourselves and the cathedral authorities. Something else you might be interested to know is there a difference between ringing for a wedding or for Sunday service and ringing for a funeral? And yes, there is. For funerals, the bells are half muffled. And that means that a leather cap is put on one side of the clapper so that only every second stroke sounds fully and the other stroke sounds muffled. And that creates quite a haunting effect, if anyone's ever heard it.
I've noted a couple of times I've noticed, or I've noted, or I've heard that the bells are muffled because of the noise pollution. Is there a reason? Is it a civic thing that bells aren't to be heard at their full volume, or?
Well, we ring, so that's a different sort of muffling. We do have in this tower, quite effective sound control. So let's just run back upstairs. I'll bring the muffles with me. Here is our bag of muffles.
It goes up again, amazing. Must be very athletic.
It's just a lot of practice. So here you can see that we actually have 3 levels of louvers. 2, 3. Now back in the day, these would have been completely open. These days, only the center one can be opened. The lower one here is permanently closed. The top one is permanently closed. These go all the way around, by the way. You can see the 3 layers of louvers all the way around. The top ones and the bottom ones are all permanently closed. The middle ones we can open or close depending on the event. So if we're ringing for a civic occasion or a church occasion, like Sunday Mass, we will ring with these shutters open so that they can be heard reasonably well around the immediate cathedral. We close them for practice. That's just out of courtesy, really, for the neighbours. But that's different to muffling the bells, as I said. So here we have a clapper sitting against the bronze, and it will have struck that bronze really quite hard before it settled there and made quite a lot of noise, quite a nice noise if you ask me, but not everyone agrees with me. So if you can imagine a leather cap sitting between that, only on one side, you can see that when the other side of the clapper strikes, it will make a loud noise. And when this side of the clapper strikes, it will, with the leather in between the bell and the clapper, it will make quite a different noise, quite a haunting noise. And here are the muffles themselves. See, this one's had quite a bit of use.
How often would you replace them?
This is the second set that we've had. They're still in quite good nick. We've had them maybe 10 years. So we're not in a rush to replace them. I would expect to get another 20 or 30 years out of these ones.
I mean, I suppose you're not ringing with the muffles every week or anything.
Exactly, yeah. We probably only use them 2 or 3 times a year. So on Remembrance Day, in particular, we would ring half muffled. So the ball of the clapper sits in there, and it's tied to the clapper by means of these Velcro. I told you, see, not everything is ancient in bell ringing. We've even got Velcro. And so the bit that actually strikes the bell is this pad here. So there you go. I have no idea what the time is, Richard. Perhaps you could let me know.
Just coming up on 7:20 p.m.
Right, right. Well, I think probably then we'll wrap up unless anyone's got some other questions. I did have a few slides to show you, which we might have a look at briefly, but we've seen everything that there is to see up here. We can have a discussion about methods if people are interested in that.
No.
I have a question.
Please.
I have a question. Yes. So Murray, thank you very much. And you said that the bell ringer started in the 16th century, if I heard you correctly. Were there no bells
17th century,
in
the
cathedrals
1600s.
before?
Well, so what I was yeah, so the 17th century. So what I was referring to then was the particular art of English change ringing. Bells themselves obviously have been around for millennia, but the particular way of ringing that we do in English-speaking countries as a result of our English heritage in that respect depends on the bells being mounted on a wheel and mounted on a full wheel. Before that, they were just hung, as they still are on the continent of Europe today, just hung with their mouths down. And if they swing, there isn't any control over when the sound actually strikes. By raising them into an upright position, as we see here, and holding them upright by means of the stay slider and runner board here, the ringer, after enough practice, and by practice I mean years of practice, can decide exactly when the sound is going to happen and fit it in all around the other bells. So each ringer is performing that mental calculation themselves in order to fit in with the bells around them And it means that the bells can be rung in order and that the order can change. So really excellent bell ringing that you might hear will just sound like a skilled pianist playing a scale to begin with, from the highest to the lowest. Sorry, just trying to gather my thoughts. So in the 17th century, bells were first put onto a quarter wheel so that they could swing, then onto a half wheel, and then now, as you can see, onto a full wheel. So it was the art of change ringing that particularly started in the early 17th century. Well, I'll head back downstairs then.
While you do, I'll just say thank you very much, Marie-Luc. I mean, I know that this is an experience that you're giving to many people who wouldn't otherwise be able to take it often, because, well, as you have demonstrated so ably, access into the bell tower can be a little bit challenging for many people. And so we're very grateful to you indeed for giving us this opportunity by broadcasting it out to the world this way.
Well, thank you. I thought I would take the opportunity to get you all a little bit closer into the bell tower itself. And some people won't have been able to get up here in the past. So I'm glad. Thank you. So these are the slides from a presentation I gave just a few years ago. You will have seen all of this yourselves just now. But yes, if you move forward, Margaret. Oh, let's go back and look at the first picture, which is a really lovely shot of the tower through the jacaranda tree on a gorgeous morning. So then we have the bottom door. That was the door. You wouldn't have seen that door because it was so dark in the cathedral when I came in. But that's the door behind which are the stairs that you saw close up as we came up the stairs. That's the spiral staircase inside that buttress there. Margaret can, yeah. So it's quite narrow. That's the door of disappointment. Some of our visitors have dubbed it.
Marie-Luc, what's behind the door of disappointment?
That's the triforium. The triforium is in there. So I believe there is a couple of signal boxes or electrical boxes and some organ pipes as well. So, you know, if you're standing right in front of the altar and you look up both to left and right, you'll see that there are some archways up there. Can you imagine what I mean? Well, there's a space behind those archways. It's called a triforium, or the clerestory, or the clerestory even. I'm not sure how that's pronounced. The view from the top on a Sunday morning is really something else.
Especially with the jacaranda in bloom.
Exactly, yes. Those are the old tiles that you would have seen there. The tiles have all been replaced now and they're lovely. That's the old staircase as well. Now the mats that you can see there, it's tempting. Most people think that the mats are to guide where the ringer stands, and I guess they are in a way, but the ringer doesn't stand on the mats. The ringer stands behind the mats. The reason is so that the rope, when it hits the floor, hits the mat and not the carpet. So the carpet is made of synthetic and the mats are made of wool. The ropes are made of hemp and flax. So because of the length of the ropes don't change, it means where it hits the floor, it always hits at the same point in the rope. And synthetic carpet just takes one little thread out of the rope at a time, and over a period of time, that's where the rope will break when it breaks. So we use woolen mats instead to protect the ropes. Up into the sound chamber. Many danger signs. Again. and a few nice shots of the bells. And an example of some of the music that we use. We can talk about that a little bit if people have questions. So there you go. That's probably my hour. I'm very happy to take any questions or stick around for a chat.
I'd just like to repeat the question. That if anyone has got any questions, then don't go to bed tonight kicking yourself that you didn't ask it, because I do know that Murray, Luke, and Margaret are very happy to answer questions. And
I have a question.
Yes, Reinhard.
Yes. How musical do you have to be a bell ringer?
Well, as with any musical instrument, you sort of learn what you need to know as you go. I mean, no one is musical until they start. No pianist who plays the piano has to be musical to start. You sort of learn it as you go along. There is a fair bit of music involved in it. You need to learn to be able to pick out the sound of your own bell from what can be a lot of other noise. And you need to be able to hear your own bell so that you can make adjustments, so that you can hear the same thing that people outside the tower are hearing. So you do need to learn a few musical skills, but you can learn it as you go.
And Murray Luke is very musical and I'm very unmusical. I played the recorder in Year 5, but I can count to 12 and I think that helps. And
being able to count is the primary skill you need.
Yes, I have another question. Do members of St Mary's Bell Ringers do that as one of a number of bells that they may ring around the city?
Well, we're very friendly with the other ringers from other towers. The fact that most services that have bells are on a Sunday morning, at the same time, means usually that most people are attached, at least primarily, to one tower. We do have a few people who come and help us from time to time from other towers, and we go and help them from time to time for other towers. But most people will be specifically at one tower. And join in on practice nights, because practice nights are spread more evenly throughout the week. So there's much less chance of a conflict there. In fact, St James practice on a Tuesday night and I can hear them.
Thank you.
No wonder you didn't want to ring any bells this evening, because that might have confused them.
Yeah, it might. I think they'd probably have figured it out, but
I wonder why they were ringing on a Tuesday night.
they would, yes.
I would want to know why, but they would know where the noise was coming from, or the sound was coming from.
All right, well, if no one has any other questions, I might just wrap up by reiterating our thanks to Murray, Luke, and to Margaret. Both of you have been so generous with your time this evening. And thank you to everyone who has come to our online talk. This is our second online talk, and I hope you think that we're doing okay. And we have a third one scheduled for next month. That will be where I will be in conversation with the Cathedral's Director of Music, Thomas Wilson. And no doubt we'll be covering a wide range of topics, but generally around the subject of cathedral music, which is a pretty enormous subject. And so do please, if you haven't already, do please register for that, if that's something that you would be interested in. And meanwhile, if you might consider giving a donation to the Friends for the work that we do, and as a little bit of an encouragement for us, then do please do so. That all donations are very gratefully received. If we were to have these talks in person, we would generally be charging $10 for members or $15 for non-members for tickets. But of course, you haven't paid anything to come this evening, and I think that's quite right, because the limitations of the online format. But you are able to donate on our website at cathedralfriends.org.au. If anyone who is here this evening is interested in the opportunity of bell ringing, do please get in touch, because I know that that new ringers are always gratefully welcomed, even if it is a long and slow process of training them up. Because I know that it's a hugely rewarding experience, as we were hearing from Margaret from her own experience. But until next time, thank you all very much, and I think we'll leave it there.